studio today. Today is May 25th, 2012, and Greg and I are we're just going to be showing video footage of the the Occupy Mendocino Street Fair from May 12th. Our last show was nearly an hour of that footage, and came out pretty good, and we've got enough for another show. So let's see. We want to mention that you'll be seeing some candidates for office, and we do not necessarily endorse any of those candidates, and any of the opinions of any of the speakers that you're going to see are solely the opinion of those speakers and not necessarily that of Channel 3 or Occupy Ukiah. So I think that's about all we have for today. Next show we'll be coming back with our regular format. We'll definitely be doing a Fukushima update. We'll be talking a little bit about foreclosures. Who knows, we may even have a guest. So stay tuned for about nearly an hour. It's about 45 minutes of Occupy Mendocino Street Fair footage. Okay, we'll see you next time. Adios.
So I want to bring up our next speaker. It's Dr. William Courtney.
Excuse me. I think it's scam.
Dr. Courtney is a well-known worldwide for his research in identifying the value of raw cannabis in cancer, arthritis, heart disease, diabetes, and epilepsy. He is also a proven problem solver as an inventor with safety products worldwide. Dr. Courtney met with Occupy Eureka, the First Amendment group, to speak out against Humboldt's emergency ordinance requiring a permit to protest. Dr. Courtney's chief concern is about the use of terrorism to strip us of our civil liberties in Homeland Security, the Patriot Act, and other federal acts and decisions. Dr. Courtney fights the unjust hand of the federal government every day, and he asks us to join him in standing up for the civil liberties and the human rights. Dr. Courtney?
Yes. Good afternoon. Thank everyone for bringing part of their day to this event. This certainly is a very important election. Without an incumbent, 12 people are running. Your vote is going to be very critical. A very small number of votes will probably separate those that make it on to the general election from the primary. And I'm asking for your support. One of the big issues for me is term limits. The fact that we have people in Congress for 48 years when the Constitution called for a 2-year term tells us that there's issues with this re-election. 23 states have passed laws asking for term limits, but Supreme Court 5-4 turned that over and said you can't limit that term. There is now an amendment being circulated on the internet asking for term limits, and I ask you to go there and sign up for that, because until we get the entrenched power blocks out of Congress, not much is going to be done. One of the seriously entrenched power blocks is, if you've seen Time magazine this week, you notice on the front of it there's this picture of China, and calls out their corruption and wants to know if China can face the truth. And it really is hard for me to see on the front page of a major U.S. magazine that we're concerned about China's dealing with truth. We've got truth issues here. Yeah, we got some serious truth issues here, and it's essential that we bring in a special prosecutor to take a look at 9/11. The counsel to the 9/11 Commission wrote a book, Ground Truth, and he said essentially he was lied to, he had no information, any information that was controversial was redacted. We need to know what happened there, because all of our civil liberties are being stripped in search of a terrorist, and the terrorists, it looks like, really don't exist. So this whole thing, this false flag movement, we need to kind of deal with that, because if we don't, we're just going to keep progressing with Patriot Act, Military Commission Act, Homeland Security Act, Anti-Protest Act. And so who you elect today is critical, because every Democrat, all 80 progressive Democrats, voted against the right to protest, the right to assemble, speak, seek redress on federal properties. So it's hard to know how we're going to approach this My plan is on the very first day to file a Freedom of Information Act for the 80 videos that document what happened at the Pentagon, as well as to work on this, calling a special prosecutor to kind of just clean the air on this. I mean, the rest of the world wants us to get beyond this, and we can't do it until we can face the truth. It's not going to be easy, and right now they're converging military and police, Tennessee and Texas. They're pulling cars over to check for seatbelts using the military, so we're being desensitized. As the soldiers come home, put them to work in the U.S. We live in a constitutional free zone, 100 miles of the border. They don't need a judge's order for a search warrant. They don't need to identify what they're looking for or where they're looking for. They can just usurp all that. And if they call you a terrorist, they can assassinate you without probable cause, access to confront your accuser, or any of those basic rights. So I would like to rescind all laws bearing on civil liberties since 9/11, once we decide what happened at 9/11 and who was willing to kind of, in my mind, commit one of the major crimes against humanity of all time. And like I said, it's not going to be easy, but part of the answer, if you got an extra $100, you can buy the National Defense Authorization Act, signed into law December 31st, 2011. And I guarantee you, this is worse than a Stephen King novel. It's absolutely horrifying. There are a number of different websites out there. In case you've not seen them, I appear to be one of the last people to kind of open my eyes. So it amazes me. I've been doing a survey for the last 2 to 3 months. Every one of my patients is like, "Oh yeah, it's obviously it was just a cover-up. Thing's horrible." But what do we do with this cover-up? Supreme Court said we got to strip search people looking for terrorists. There was a black man in a BMW, a passenger. They stripped him twice. He was so pissed he took it to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court said 5-4. I'm sorry, man. You could have been a terrorist. 13 million Americans are arrested. If you do not have an audible bell on your bicycle, they can strip search you. They strip search the non. They don't. It's dehumanizing. So you desensitize, put the military all around. You dehumanize with these kind of psyops maneuvers. And where's this all going? And this is all in search of this. You may have seen recently the panty bomber. It was 2 or 3 days ago. They're pounding away. This is a war for the minds of Americans, and a lot of people believe that a couple of folks with box cutters commandeered these planes. This is all a function of our being attacked by terrorists, and so we're struggling to kind of get enough of Americans to kind of look at the facts to call for a terror gate, find out what happened, get beyond it, get our civil liberties back. A very important documentary out there is the Architects and Engineers. It's A&E 9/11. This is a group of people around the world in their native tongue with English subtitles saying essentially it's impossible that this happened from diesel fuel. Diesel fuel burns at 1,000 degrees, in open air, and steel melts at 1,500. So it's ludicrous, the story that's been passed on, and now is being driven home with these panty raids and shoe bombers and all this type of stuff. So 2 years, give me 2 years, give me one election cycle, and if I come home alive, I'll be very happy. But if not, you can believe that I would rather die revealing this hand of tyranny than live under its thumb, and its thumb is coming down big. In addition to that, I am a world's cannabis expert. I've got kids, a dozen of them, that have Dravet's. They had 300 to 400 seizures a day. They're now going 3 to 4 days without a seizure, stopping their Topamax. They're at maximum dose. I have children with brain tumors that were sent home on morphine to die, that are now 2 years out with the tumor gone and the scar tissue resolved. These are people that have had, this one child's had 39 hours of surgery, 10 times lethal chemotherapy, a bone marrow transplant, and then went into 42 days of radiation. Tumor grew back every time. They finally sent her home to Fort Bragg on oxygen morphine on hospice. Local pediatrician put her on raw cannabis, and I can't really explain it. I just know that 2 years later she's alive. She's off hospice. The tumor's gone, and all of the scar tissue's gone. In addition, Cannabis is involved in, it can reduce the size of heart attack by 66%. And this is in mouse models. Tie off a coronary artery, reduce a heart attack. If you're getting 5 milligrams per kilogram of CBD, your heart attack is 66% smaller. If you could produce a drug that would do that, you would have a blockbuster billionaire drug. It also reduces insulin-dependent diabetes by 58%. If you look at the 4 top medical conditions, coronary vascular disease, top killer of men and women, almost $2 billion, $197 billion just for that. Cancer, over $200 billion. Diabetes, Alzheimer's. Those 4 conditions equal the military budget. And we do have financial problems. I mean, right now we're going to have to remove $600 billion from the domestic services. So I'd like to promise you all kinds of things. It's going to be an ugly year as we go through that sequester. The best minds in the Senate and Congress wouldn't even meet to try to deal with that $1.2 trillion deficit that we were running up. And we're now running up over $2 trillion a year. We know that this just can't go on. And so this is going to be a difficult year because the majority in Congress is going to try to push the military $600 billion onto domestic. So if we can get away with just $600 billion in cuts, we'll be lucky. So if we can do something with cannabis that can reduce this healthcare thing by $600 billion, there's money there to reinvest in single payer. The private insurance company makes 30% overhead. Medicare makes 3%. You could shift that 27% into provision of services. If we reduce medical conditions using preventative measures that are patented by the federal government. The Department of Health and Human Services holds a patent on CBD and its benefits. And if we just employ that and reduce the cost, then we really could provide services even in a time when we're in severe constriction as we try to deal with this very, very ugly financial situation that's in play. Also genome, I'm a microbiologist. You know, we don't need to just label it, we need to stop it. There's a lot of insinuations that they're putting terminator genes into cannabis. Cannabis is a dietary essential. It helps you prevent conditions. And if we make ourselves allergic to it, that opportunity is gone, and that really is pretty horrifying. It's a global resource. We need to protect the genome. Well, obviously, we need to label it, but we need to protect it. Because once you contaminate it, it's 100 million years before you can change surface antigens back to where we can eat soybeans as opposed to become allergic to it. Clean energy, I've spent 20 years living on the ocean, 15 patents in scuba diving. Right now in Australia, biopower is generating subsurface hydrokinetic energy. This district has hundreds of miles of coastline. We could provide enough energy for western United States, except that the oil industry owns the executive branch and owns Congress, and they're not really interested in a lot of free electrical energy, but we need that. Another thing that we need is the use of hemp. Henry Ford ran his car on hemp oil. And what hemp does is it takes 20 CO2 carbon molecules out of the air, makes an oil, you burn it, you generate 20 CO2 carbon molecules, you put it back in the air. So there's zero net CO2 production with hemp oil. And in addition, we can take hemp, press it into lumber, hempcrete, and we can put it in long-term storage and begin to remove the 31 billion tons of CO2 that we put in the atmosphere last year. We're now at 394 parts per million as of March 2012. 280 was the last highest measurement. And if the ice slides off of Iceland and we raise the sea level by 20 feet, that'll change the coastal face of the United States and the world in a real negative way. So I often get painted as a single issue candidate, and I do. I mean, Mike Thompson, he was there for 14 years. He passed 9 bills. That's about 1 per term. So I can list 50,000 things that are wrong, but if I'm going to list one, it's going to be Terrorgate, prosecute the criminals, give us our civil liberties back, and let's go ahead with protecting the environment and the genome and get people in Congress that are responsive to our needs, that it will allow alternative energies that can help protect the planet and single payer. I mean, the American Insurance Group doesn't want to lose that 30%. I mean, that's a chunk of change. We bailed them out for $5 trillion. So it's not going to be easy to get them to go single payer. That's the reason it didn't go this time. And like I said, there's a lot of things wrong. One thing, let's do what we're asking China to do. Let's face the truth. Let's get on the bottom of it, and let's get on to the next issue. But the one thing I want to do is to get a special prosecutor and begin to open this thing up so that we can kind of get this abscess out, get our civil liberties back, get the military out of our law enforcement, get the drones out of our sky, get They closed one of the few dispensaries on the coast that was providing raw cannabis. And I would send people with terminal cancer, we're talking stage 4 metastatic cancer, ALS, that had driven here from the East Coast. This child with brain tumors was going there to get her fresh cannabis, and the federal government sends that dispensary a letter stating we're going to seize your property. You know, I wish their children were being treated there, and then they would look at what they're doing. So we need to stand up. One area, if I have one more comment. When they prohibited alcohol, they had to amend the Constitution. They had to get 3/4 of the states to agree to amend the Constitution to prohibit alcohol. Then when they decided to terminate it, they had to amend the Constitution to terminate that prohibition. They forgot to do that with cannabis.
This is a David Rawlings song. It's a sort of a new version of an old theme. It's called How's About You? Got mud on my shoes, shoes on my feet. I've been walking up and down the street. Buddy, I've seen a thing or two. How's about you? How's about you? Ain't you been walking too? Seems a lot of good people been getting bad news. How's about you? Ain't you got nothing to say? Oh, I used to have $1, but I have a dime someday. Well, I ain't got a nickel, busted that flat. Wish I had one of them pork pie hats. This old rain's about so true. How's about you? How's about you? Ain't you got nothing to say? Seems a lot of good people been getting that news. How's about you? Ain't you got nothing to say? Oh, I used to have $1, gonna have a dime someday. Jesse? Thank you, Jacob. Not a criminal man, he ain't behind bars. He's out driving them Cadillac cars. I'm going to switch sides real soon. How's about you? How's about you? Ain't you been hard up too? Seems a lot of good people been getting bad news. How's about you? Ain't you got nothing to say? Oh, I used to have $1, gonna have a dime someday. Had a man in the church, a man on a hill, says it won't hurt me, but we know that it will. I've been worried the whole night through. How's about you? How's about you? Ain't you been worried too? Seems a lot of good people been getting bad news. How's about you? Ain't you got nothing to say? I used to have $1, gonna have a dime someday. I used to have $1, gonna have a dime someday.
I have here Jessie Van Sant. She's going to come over here and talk to us. She's part of the Fighting Foreclosure Committee, which is promoting a foreclosure prevention zone here in Fort Bragg and along the coast. They've got the city council to pass a resolution supporting them. There's going to be a big public meeting they're putting together. She really wants your support. The city council needs your support to really make sure that this is an important thing that is done right to prevent foreclosures here on the coast. So, without further ado, here's Jesse Van Sant.
I apologize for sitting down, but I'm just absolutely pooped. We've been hustling for the last 3 days, and anyway, I'm supposed to talk about foreclosure and what, and fraudulent foreclosure. Thank you, Stephen. And often, you know, when I first start talking to someone about foreclosure, their first response is that whoever's being foreclosed on deserves it. That they've made a mistake themselves, they shouldn't have signed the papers, it's their own fault. And of course that's just not true, because what we had happen was in 2007, 2008, as Jim mentioned in his speech, there was a financial meltdown in the United States. And it was as a result of the Glass-Steagall Act. I need to be closer. I'm hearing myself really loudly, so. It was as a result of the repeal of Glass-Steagall in 1999. And Senator Dorgan stood in the floor of the Senate and he said, this is just going to be a terrible thing, that we're going to rue the day that we've done this. And sure enough, 17, 18 years later, we had another financial collapse, similar to the ones that happened in the Great Depression, that brought the Great Depression to happen. And as a result of repealing Glass-Steagall, the banks no longer had the firewall between the investment banks and the commercial banks. And so we had all of this stuff that happened that just mucked up everything as far as homeowners were concerned. They were targeted, and they were told they could have these mortgages and they could pay them by people who they trusted, the mortgage brokers and the real estate agents who told them it's going to be okay. And then those mortgage businesses proceeded to securitize and chop up their mortgages and sell them off and bundle them and sell them here and there and make them into junk. And suddenly we had a collapse because there was nothing behind these investments. And these brokers were selling the investments at the same time that they were sending emails to one another talking about what junk they were and how their clients were so stupid to buy these things because they were just absolute garbage, but they sold them anyway. And so we had the 1999 Banking Act, and we had the Banking Act in 1999, which was just absolutely turned us upside down, and our domestic and residential mortgages were turned into gambling chips. But anyway, I wanted to tell you about what a fraudulent foreclosure is, and starting by saying what a legal foreclosure, it's a legitimate manner to recoup a bad loan, obviously. But a fraudulent foreclosure is one where the paperwork is not in existence. It's been sold and chopped up so many times that you can't find the deed of trust. And the only entity which can go forward with the foreclosure is the owner, the holder of the actual loan and the actual deed of trust, the property title. And what we found out as we did our investigations and learned from what we started was that there was a system created. It was called MERS, which is the Mortgage Electronic Registration System. And that was created specifically to create this fraudulent foreclosure setup. I'm sure they didn't call it that. And then what happened in addition to that, they couldn't find all the paperwork, they couldn't get all the signatures, so they started doing robo-signing, where they signed the same names to these documents. And there were so many of them that nobody really caught it until the government actually started to realize we got a big problem. And there is, we have 5 major banks which have been actually named by name. Bank of America, Wells Fargo, Citigroup, Chase, and Ally Bank are actually named, and there are a couple more which have actually been named in criminal, prosecutionable things. And that's all coming down the line. I think that President Obama in the last couple of days has talked about plans to, sounds like it's sort of something they call mark to market. where they're going to set up an arrangement so people can redo their home loans so that they'll be appropriate to the value of their home now. Because another thing that happened in this whole foreclosure mess is that the property values just crashed. And even if you weren't foreclosed on your home next to somebody who was foreclosed on, you lost $100,000, $200,000. You may have bought your home for $400,000 and that was worth $2. And many, many people are finding this, and their mortgage is for $4, their house value is for $2, and they're stuck with a mortgage. It's called being upside down or underwater. And that's just gone on and on and on. We have 500,000 children in California who have been made homeless by fraudulent foreclosure, which is a totally different thing. And these people bought their homes in good faith, trusting the brokers and the mortgage people to tell them what to do, because we're not professionals at buying homes. You know, if most of us only get to buy one home if we ever are even that lucky, and we're not trained to read that paperwork and know what all that small print means. So we hire these people. We trust them. We get into this real tight relationship with them, and they betrayed us. They lost their professional awareness of their moral obligation to their clients, and they just went for the money. And now we have to clean up the mess. We have petitions over here. As Jim said, the Fort Bragg City Council did pass a resolution, but we need to put more pressure on them to get a little bit more forceful about what they're doing for the community. Because the reason that it's important to the city, to small communities, to the counties, is because they're losing money. Fraudulent foreclosure loses money. It takes the property values down, which reduces the amount of money that's coming into the local coffers. It also, these fraudulent foreclosures we found in our own county recorder's office, there were places where there should have been fees paid, and it may not be a whole bunch of money to any individual document, but it adds up. You know, one that we were able to get on tape, there was $21 in fees that were not paid to the county. And if you multiply that by all the thousands and thousands of people who are being put through this process, the county is being fraudulently kept from having its own money paid to it by the people who are using its services. This is important, that we who are not facing foreclosure, who are not threatened, to stand up with our neighbors and protect them by making a vocal community voice from the grassroots all the way up to the top, all the way to the presidency. Get a hold of him now and say, yes, do the mark to market, which means that they will bring the value of the home back down to the value of the loan back down to what has become the value of the home. And that will make it possible for people to stay in their homes and not be paying hundreds of thousands of dollars more than their home is actually worth anymore. I wrote, it's called What is a Fraudulent Foreclosure? And it's over there on the table and you can read it. But what the actual final thing is, fraudulent foreclosure is a crime against us. It's a crime against our nation. It's a crime against the citizens of this nation, because it's taking the American dream of owning a home and stealing it from people, from millions of people across the nation, not because they did anything bad, but because a financial industry was unregulated and went only for the money. It forgot about anything about honor or integrity or what you're supposed to do about taking care of others. It forgot the Christian morality, the golden rule, do unto others as you would have them do unto you. But we can change that by demanding this stuff is made, brought into the sunshine, and it's changed, that laws are changed. Nevada passed a little law that said that any foreclosure filing had to have an affidavit of authority. And that meant that whoever signed that affidavit was saying, yes, I swear that this is truthful. It took their mortgage filings down, their foreclosure filings down 72% immediately. It took them from one of the highest foreclosure places down to the bottom of the list pretty quickly in a couple of months. And it was just a simple code change in their laws. So simple things can happen. We need first a moratorium We need a moratorium, and we have a 3-year moratorium petition over there that you can sign, and we also have the URLs or the stuff on the internet that you can go online and sign these petitions. And then we need to have this mark-to-market happen, where the values of the homes and the values of the mortgages are paired up again so people are not being punished like this. And we need to tell our elected officials to keep people in their homes first. That's the first thing, because it's a crime against our nation and we need to stop it. It's a theft from all of us. So that's probably enough for me. Thank you very much for listening to me. Does anybody have a question? I don't know whether I can answer it. I had a bunch of statistics that were sent to me by email, but I didn't have time to pull them all together. Yes, Susan?
Where does the city of Fort Bragg bank its money?
Ah, yes, this is something we discovered where does the city of Fort Bragg bank its money? Anybody want to guess? Wells Fargo. Ding, 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 ding. We found this out when we did our resolution, when we took our resolution to them, and we discovered that they had been banking with Wells Fargo all these years and having the water bills. It was around the water bills because Wells Fargo said that they'd print and mail the water bills. So now we have a petition instructing our City Council of Fort Bragg to change their bank to a local bank. So I encourage you all to walk over to our table, and thank you, Susan, for reminding me about this. Walk over to our table and sign that petition, whether you're a Fort Bragg city person or a general community person, because I think we all can tell them that that's what they need to do. We need to support our local merchants, our local banks, and keep our money here, because when it goes to Wells Fargo or Bank of America, it all goes out of town at the end of every day. Boom, boom, boom. With Savings Bank of Mendocino County or the Mendel Lake Credit Union, it stays in our community. Thank you, thank you.
Swear upon their mother's eyes, nothing has been changed inside to let them be so ruthless and hateful. With willful hand they don the mask and take apart the sacred truth to forget, in fact, to cause the harm that most everybody else lacks. And I'm grateful. I can feel it all over you. And all I know is true. And tonight, the stars don't shine on the city, even for the ones who answered the call. So if tonight makes your life feel a pity, you're not mistaken, your back's against the wall. When someone comes to show the change with no protection from the scorn hurled upon this newest thing by cowardice masquerading as bravery. My country, the government, had gone along with fearful threats and schemes designed by inferior men. I do not expect them to save me. I can feel it all over you, and all I know is true. And tonight, the stars don't shine on the city, even for the ones who answered the call. So if tonight makes your life feel a pity, you're not mistaken, your back's against the wall. When poets for 1,000 years rectify the cloud of shame spun by ignorance while the bars overflow with laughter. But who can blame them for their fate? They're just trying to escape and trapped with nothing to compare. After all, it's so rare to really know what you're after. I can feel it all over you, and all I know is true. And tonight, stars don't shine on the city, either for the ones who answered the call. So if tonight makes your life feel a pity, you're not mistaken, your back's against the wall. You're not mistaken, your back's against the wall. You're not mistaken, your back's against the wall. But you can do whatever you want with it.
Okay, and we're rolling. Ever since I was a young man, watching the Vietnam War roll to a close, and I've been getting lied to continuously by our government ever since. They call the Congress and the Senate branches of government. I call them unindicted co-conspirators, supported by Wall Street and the top 1% of this country, who are it's the criminal class. They call themselves wealthy. Where did that wealth come from? And where it came from is your and my pockets. And as the 99% goes down like this, the 1% goes up like this. So somewhere along the line, something's rotten. And you know, when a fish washes up on the beach, it starts smelling after a while. And when the 1% start getting everything up here, it starts smelling after a while. In the Occupy movement, I think I'm a little tall to see my hat. The Occupy movement, which I'm involved with in Ukiah, California, we're to support the 99% and to bring some justice and freedom to the people of this country. And I love you all, and I hope that was entertaining. Da-da-da-da-da-da.
Ready? Okay. My name is Ike. I'm from Occupy Ukiah. I live in Redwood Valley, and I'm here to start a new business. Today we started a business, and it's called the Local Fuel Co-op. That means from locally produced duckweed, we ferment. Fermenting is a good climate here because it's cool. We will ferment and make alcohol. You can drive your car or your truck on local alcohol. No need to invade countries because you can produce your own alcohol and drive your car or your truck or your business. Obviously, fuel drives the economy. So, what we're doing here is we're putting three things together. One, the local expertise to make alcohol. There's 40 people in the room, and we're invited to the next meeting where the contracts will be signed. We will become a local fuel co-op. This expertise people, what they need is the equipment. So, that's why I come in, I got it, sitting around in Willits for 5 years, I don't know what to do with it. Then, you need also the distilleries and the tanks, and they're in Willits at the Golden Rule, so we will go there and have them delivered to the local site where we're having our fuel co-op. So I don't want to spill the beans too much, but I'm going to cook on that idea and say that I'm so thankful for the Occupy Mendocino people who made the street fair happening so we can actually create new business. First there was nothing. There was only parts here and there laying around. And all of a sudden, we see the bigger picture. And we see, this part fits over here, that fits over there. Local business over here, my friend David over there. And then when we get to know each other, we find, you got that idea. Well, I have that idea too. Let's work together. There's nothing radical about it. We have done this as human beings for millions of years. Except, there comes a big guy. He got a uniform on. We're all afraid of him. Oh my God, he's even black. We're even more afraid of him. Oh my God, I don't know his name. I'm sure I'm even more afraid of him. So, if we have this is our land, then we should not be afraid of each other anymore. No racist because you this and that, and I'm here and this and that. I could be blue. I could be red or yellow. For you and me on that side.
So now we're here on the street with Rick Childs. We're coming to the end of the Occupy Fair today, and Rick Childs was the main organizer for the Occupy Mendocino event. And Rick, can you tell us maybe a little bit about what went into some of the organizing? It sounds like it's a long story. Big project.
It was
a great event today.
Well, thank you. Yeah, there was a ton of man hours, or actually person hours, I think.
Yeah, right.
Politically correct. But anyway, it started out. Somebody wanted to do a soapbox, up at the other end of town, and just let people come up and speak their piece. That was the incubus of it.
Yeah.
And when I heard about it, I said, well, let's start. How about we get some speakers to come in and we put it downtown where people will drive by and see the thing. And so from there, it just mushroomed out.
Nice.
So the idea was, the critical components were, be in a highly, trafficked area.
Yeah.
Get as many interesting speakers to come and talk about what Occupy is all about. And the goal was, so many people, you've probably heard the same thing. What is Occupy? Well, it's the unwashed being led by the inarticulate. So we wanted to try and fix some of that misconception. So the goal was, what is Occupy all about? And come down specifically with what we're trying to do. The economic injustice that is going on, the growing economic inequalities in the United States, and the use and the power and use of huge money by mega corporations and the super wealthy to buy Congress and get even better deals out of the system. So that was our goal, is to tell people, hey, this is what's going on, this is not okay, and if we start getting involved, we have a chance to actually start fixing it. So, education, getting people, concerned and involved, angry, and then involved.
Yeah.
So, and then that, as you can see down there, that was the main focus. Getting a whole bunch of interesting speakers, and then out of that, then led to, why don't we make this a nice community building event? So we invited all the nonprofits to come and set up tables for
Nice.
free.
So you got the city then? Did you get a permit for this?
Yeah, we need a city.
The city sanctioned it.
City. Oh yeah, city has to be involved. We had to go through quite a bit of paperwork to get a permit for it.
Right.
We also had to get Caltrans because we're on Highway 1. That required another whole set of things.
Right.
Required insurance. We have $2 million worth of insurance. So that was a part of it. We had originally planned on having food out here, but for one reason or another, that didn't happen.
Health department rules and regs and
health
food handling and whatnot.
Health department. Health department. Looks like we're gonna
great.
have
This has been a really great event, and we're about to have a dogfight here. It looks like well, at least humans are staying peaceful.
We've been meeting. I guess we've been meeting 2 hours every week. Different people took different sections. Like mine was the speakers, the roster.
Yeah.
Somebody else took the nonprofit. Somebody else took the food. What else? Caltrans, that was done by a different person.
Nice.
Each person took, and we'd meet, you know, for 2 hours every weekend.
Right.
And go over, here's where we're at, here's what's going on, here's problems.
Yeah.
The disagreements started to get sometimes, as you can
course.
imagine, with all us politicos.
Of course. And are you doing all this by consensus?
I saw your name.
Consensus means everybody has to agree. I don't think so.
You're not using consensus then for your Occupy group
well, as
decision-making?
we want, everybody has to weigh in and be happy.
Yeah.
But sometimes we just had to make executive, you know, somebody had to just say, this is the way we want to go.
Well, we're always curious to know how people are making the decisions. Yeah.
It was I could write a book on it.
Might be a bestseller.
Yeah, really.
All right, well, this has been great. We've had a great day here, and we really want to thank you for putting it on and for inviting us. And we'll stay in touch.
We'll come over to your place.
This is what it's all about.
Occupy Ukiah.
Is all the Occupy groups supporting each other.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. Well, this has been a great interview, and thank you, Rick.
My pleasure. Good.
Yeah.
Okay. Thanks for coming
Good
over.
meeting
And
you. All right.
giving a nice speech. That was a good speech.
Thank you.
Okay.
Walking through the green fields of our world, rising sun shining over the edge of this pearl. Another day, another hassle, designed to make you bow down to the castles. Forget the miracle of existing at all. Nobody here could make up someone like you. You are as unique as you are true. There ain't no time for phony nostalgia. It's just this time, they call it right now, and you're going into it whether you like it or not. I've wasted time getting hung up about money. Tasted the times when all that I had was my name. Come here closer, let me take a better look at you, honey. Remember the time when we were free from the game, so remember, 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 remember now. I'm taking back the beginning, I'll take back the end. I'm giving back all the white noise they send. We got the joy, we got the power. It's up to us in these final hours, and what you gonna do about it right now?